Well, hello and welcome to another episode of The Main Straight, the official F1 in Schools podcast. My name is Tom Deacon. I am your host, and it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you back to, and I can say this with excitement, episode 6. I can't believe that we're here already. There's been so many brilliant episodes that have brought to you some golden nuggets, some tips to help you in your F1 in Schools journey. And before I tell you about some of those episodes, thank you so much for all of the comments and messages that you have been sending to us here, the whole team at F1 in Schools HQ. We've had some brilliant messages saying that from both teachers and participants that they are very excited for the new regulations that are coming into effect, and they very much enjoyed the technical regulations episode. So this is my opportunity to tell you, if you haven't already checked that out, a brilliant episode which had the chair of judges, Gary Anderson, and the head of international operations, Nelson Vale, on. And also our last episode was all about women in motorsport. Frédérique Trouvé from the FIA and Amy Martin, who is my sort of partner in crime. I don't think that's the technical term, but my co-host for the UK Nationals and Worlds actually as well. It's been brilliant to have her alongside. She's talking about how she competed in 2 world finals. So there are absolute gems in both of those episodes, and all of them, to be fair. So go back, check them out if you haven't done so already. But what can I tell you about today's episode? Well, we're in for an absolute treat. We'll have all of the F1 in Schools news from my PDC, producer, director, and co-host, Max Fanny. He'll be on in a little bit. But before that, I just want to take this opportunity to say, when we're recording this, we have had 2 races in the Formula One World Championship. It's the 74th season. I'm sure you've enjoyed it as much as I have. 2 races, as I say, underway out of a possible 23 this year. And I think it's fair to say Red Bull have been very dominant with their back-to-back wins in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. And I think you'll have noticed it as well, a beautiful surprise, I think I said that right, in the fact that Aston Martin are pushing Red Bull to their limits. I don't think people expected them to be so dominant. They've had 2 podiums already, and if you don't know, Fernando Alonso is now driving for Aston Martin, and he picked up his 100th podium in Jeddah. So it is my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome our next guest to the Main Straight, and I know that you guys are going to be super excited to get some golden nuggets from all of this man's experience in F1. Please welcome to the podcast Andrew Brown, Head of R&D at Aston Martin, Aramco, Cognizant F1 team. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Tom. Pleasure to meet you. Right.
It's a pleasure to meet you too. And before we get into it, I'm looking, and I know this isn't great for a podcast, just behind you in an office setup. Where are you at the moment? Because I see a resplendent Aston Martin in the background behind you.
Yes, so I'm just in a meeting room in our current old factory. So this one's been here for quite a long time, since Jordan days. So yes, I'm just outside the design office in a small meeting room on my own. But yes, we've got plenty of pictures up around the place. And that is, I think, the Aston Martin AMR 21. So the first Aston Martin car that we race. So obviously we're on AMR 23 now, but that's kind of our part of our heritage there. So yeah.
Ah, well, it's great to see it. And I know that this new facility that you're moving to is going to be extremely exciting. Are you looking forward to that?
I am. It's this building that we're in now, as I say, is quite old, and we've very definitely outgrown it. There's not a lot of space, and it has been kind of holding us back. But the new facility is just incredible. I was in there last week. It's huge. It's got everything we need, and it's going to hopefully take us to that next level. So yes, very excited for the next few weeks to see what happens. So yeah.
Oh, well, brilliant. Well, listen, I know that we're not really going to talk about this season, but can I just say, fantastic work so far in this year's F1, just phenomenal. But to give a sort of a brief overview, a summary, many would call it, of your role at Aston Martin F1 team, can you do that for us?
Yeah. So I'm head of R&D, which basically means that I'm in charge of a group that looks after all of the mechanical testing and development of our car. So the aerodynamics is kind of something slightly separate. Not really my area, but we look after all of the mechanical things. So we're basically trying to make sure that the car is reliable, behaves as we want it to, and that it's entirely legal before it goes to the track. So that's for the current car, but also looking forward to next year's car and the year after. So, yeah, a lot of different things go through R&D, but it's a pretty cool job, I have to say.
Yeah. Cool is what we like. I mean, everyone taking part in F1 in schools and the competition will be doing exactly that. Maybe not necessarily looking 3 years on or 2 years on, which you do, but a day-to-day sort of operations that you do. What does life look like for you day to day?
It's very, very busy, I have to say. It's all sorts of things. So, I mean, the group is quite big, but obviously we're serving almost all of the technical areas for the whole team. So there's a lot of different projects going on at any one time. So I'm basically flitting from one thing to another. It might be brakes one moment, steering, it might be suspension, it might be wings, it might be the chassis. All these things are happening at once. And so I'm, overseeing all of that. And it's just a very, very busy and, a lot of variety. So I've got to have my head spinning on lots of different things all at the same time. So, but yeah, it can be, we can be looking at data, we can be doing physical tests, we can be doing crash tests, all sorts of things. So yeah, it's a lot of variety. I think that's how I'd put it.
That sounds incredibly difficult to keep on top of everything. I'm just trying to think of those listening right now. Well, how do you then, Andrew, how do you do that? And what strategies or any tips to keep on top of everything when you've got so many different areas to look after?
It's difficult. I mean, we have to spend a lot of time. I mean, it's a long day. We're here 12 hours a day sometimes, and that's pretty much consistent all the way through the season. But I have to take a lot of notes. Just trying every single day, kind of what is my day, what do I need to do, and that's something I do every morning, just so I don't miss things, because it's very, very easy to forget. And yeah, just try and chat to everybody and stay on top. I mean, I'm essentially a project manager these days. In the past I've kind of been involved in the technical aspects, but I've taken a step back from that. I've got a lot of engineers that are doing those jobs now, so I'm just basically trying to keep on top of what everyone's doing. I've got a big long job list. There's 100 and something items on there at any one time, but we just got to try and make sure that it's done by the right dates, and we're staying on top of it, the right race events, all that sort of thing. So it's a big organizational project for me, really, rather than a technical one. So yes, I'm very much the project manager, I suppose, in F1 schools terms.
Yeah, okay. I mean, because I'm sort of seeing that, and you've got the list, but it's hard to take things that are on that list and then get across everything. I mean, how do you find stress levels? I mean, what are your coping mechanisms for something like that? I'm just trying to think of those in the competition right now. Maybe they're getting ready for Worlds or their national finals coming up. How do you remain calm? Is it important to stay calm, or is it important to be just always on edge and then it gets the best out of you?
I think I'm always on edge to a certain extent anyway, because I think for me, it is a lot of stress. It can be very, very stressful, but it's working in a team like this, in an environment like this, it's motivating. I think we all want to win. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Fernando and Lance already this season have had a fantastic season, and that's what we want to see, and that's what we've always wanted to see. A few years ago, maybe the results weren't there, but I think it's personally motivating. That's what I want to do. So that drives me. It is stressful, but it's because I want to do it. Do you know what I mean? And I get up in the morning and I really want to crack this, want to crack that, because we know we're working towards something, whether it be national finals or world finals. It's the same for us. It's, we want to get a podium. We've managed that. We want to get a race win, and then we want to get a championship win. So it's stressful on the one hand, but it's coming from within. The motivation's coming from within. And I think, I'm just ambitious. And I guess that's what I see in a lot of the schools. They're in F1 in schools. They want to go to the nationals, they want to go to the worlds, and that's what drives them. It's not stress in that sense. It's, it's ambition and sort of drive. And I think that's what I feel daily. So it is a lot of work, no doubt, but it's, we've got the motivation to do it. And I think that's what hopefully I see in the schools themselves, is it's an awful lot of work and, difficulty to get over, to get into these sorts of competitions, but they want to do it. And I think that's, that's why I see that drive in them, same as I feel. So, yeah.
That's a great way of putting it. And I suppose you've answered my next question when I was about to ask you, what do you enjoy most about your role? Is it seeing your team on getting podiums? Is it seeing all that hard work and the hours that you give and being rewarded? Is it seeing smiles on people's faces? I mean, knowing that you've done your best. I mean, what's the best bit you get from your role?
Yeah, I mean, success is amazing. We watched the race at home a few weeks ago in Bahrain, and it was just fantastic. I mean, to work on a project, you don't know truly how it's going to go until the first race is over, and we knew it was going to be good. We knew there was some promise there, but until the result is in, you don't want to kind of let your expectations get too high. But to see that result and see coming on Monday morning and everyone was talking about it and the buzz that's been around it has been brilliant. I have to say that was fantastic. So that's why we do it, definitely. But even on seasons where that doesn't happen, we're not finishing on the podium, we're not winning races, I think it is just, I just enjoy racing. I think I enjoy the whole process, and even just the chance that you're going to finish on the podium is kind of motivating enough. And just being involved in racing in your job, for me, when it's my kind of hobby and my passion, it's not a job at that point. It's I say, that's what I do it because I want to do it, and not because anyone's sort of telling me to. And to mix your hobby and your job and get enjoyment and feedback from it is just, that's perfect. I don't think I could do a normal job in that sense that wasn't something like this. I'm so used to it. Sometimes I could do with a break and an easier life, but I don't take it because it's not worth it. It's the buzz that you get from it. You can't replace that.
Yeah, you just won't find that joy. Be honest with me, and I know this is a cheeky question. Is there a different walk to you now, Andrew? Is a bit more of a spin of your stuff?
There is. I think so. I think people, we've all got our team kit and things like that. I think we wear it with a little bit more pride than we did last year, definitely. And, I think people recognize it, more. I've had people asking me, family, friends asking me, so you did, your amazing result at the weekend. And you think, on the map a little bit. So that's what we all want. It is good. It is good feeling.
You mentioned about, you couldn't do another job. I'm curious to know what your path was to get to where you are right now.
Sure. Well, when I was very young, I wasn't interested in F1 at all. Just wasn't something I even knew existed, I guess. And it probably wasn't until I was in secondary school that I kind of became aware of it. And we had a kart club at school. So 2-stroke, little, motorbike engine karts. And there was a bunch of volunteers that ran that. And I forget exactly how I got involved, but someone maybe suggested I went along. And I thought, okay, it wasn't really my thing, but I'll go along. And a few of my friends were already involved in it. And I just got hooked on it. So it was very, very sudden. I went from, not being I was interested in cars, but not necessarily in F1, to that just being my ambition. So I was probably about 13, 14 at the time. And all of a sudden that just became the only thing that I wanted to do. And I just wanted to sort of point out really that it was kind of teachers and volunteers that kind of put me on that path a little bit. I suppose a bit like F1 schools. So, I don't think I would have had that opportunity or that vision to do that if it wasn't for those guys that ran that club. I don't think they necessarily thought that was what they were doing at the time, but that set me on a path that's led to me sitting here today and talking to you, and been involved in Fernando's exploits in Bahrain and Saudi. That was the very, very beginning of that. So that was my career path. Started then, and it was down to that kind of volunteer-led thing. And I can see the same thing with the teachers and the volunteers that are involved with those schools. They're giving those kids that opportunity, and I think shout out to them for what they're doing, because if it sets another child or someone else on a path to F1 or to something else, then hats off. That's fantastic. So if I ever got the opportunity to thank those guys, I definitely would do. But that led me on to sort of want to go to university to do mechanical engineering, which I did at Loughborough. And I continued to work in racing. So I karted through my teen years. And then I actually worked at Donington Park, which was just down the road from my university. I worked at the racing school there for a bit. And I got to meet a whole bunch of people through the racing school there. And that helped me when I got graduated, that I kind of knew a lot about racing, and I could kind of talk confidently about racing. And I had some experiences in racing, because F1 in schools didn't exist at the time. This is quite some time ago. And originally I joined Nissan as a road car company, so nothing to do with racing, because I was struggling to break in But eventually I got an opportunity with a company called Ilmor, which is now Mercedes engines in F1. And I joined there being an engine development engineer. And I actually went and lived in America for a little while. So I worked on NASCAR and IndyCar for a little while. So I went all around the States. I went to Indianapolis, Daytona, all these places. So again, I was listening to the podcast last week with Amy Martin, and she was saying it's that kind of sequence that you don't necessarily know where these things are going to go, but if a door opens, you take it because you don't know where that one leads to, and then the next one and the next one. And it was pretty similar with me. I'd never kind of had an ambition to come work in NASCAR in America, but having done it, it was just fantastic, absolutely brilliant, and taught me an awful lot of things that are now used back here in F1. I was out there for a few years and came back. I went to Williams, was a designer there, moved on to Force India, and then eventually got promoted up to the role I'm in now. And obviously it's Aston Martin. So one thing leads to another. But it was those early doors, I think, that made the difference for me. That was the kart club, the things I learned there, that the ambition it gave me, and then obviously those doors that it opened. It was really that early part of my career that's kind of made it, and that's what I kind of wanted to get involved in F1 Schools for, because it's opening those doors for the kids at a young age, and then letting them go off and do what they want to do, or wherever those open doors take them. And that's the important thing. I think that's the best thing about F1 in schools, is it sets them on a path. We're not necessarily leading them directly into F1, but it puts them on that path. And someone else did that for me, so I just want to kind of perhaps do that for someone else. And I think that's what I think we all do. We're all involved in it for that reason. We just want to see these kids, make the most of their potential and opportunity that they get. So yeah, that's in a nutshell though.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an incredible journey. I'm just picturing NASCAR in schools. Maybe that could be, I just had that idea in my head for a second, but we are talking about F1 in schools. It's such an incredible journey. As you say, Amy Martin on a previous episode of The Main Straight talked about just saying yes to these opportunities if it's going to lead to more experience, more knowledge that you can use further down the line, and maybe not necessarily having a fixed place you want to be. I mean, did you ever have a fixed place? This is the job I want, and I'm going to work towards it.
I wanted to be a race engineer at Ferrari, so that was my goal. But yeah, I've never worked at Ferrari, and I've never been a race engineer. But maybe I
not yet.
Never say never, eh? keep my voice down. But that was a very specific goal. But really the goal for me was just to be involved in racing, and hopefully I've kind of done that. And you never know. I think to be too specific is kind of wrong. I think, as Amy said, you just go with what's available to you, and you just don't know where it leads, and could come full circle and get back to where you wanted to be in the first place. But it's the unknown, that going to America for me was, I still talk about it, talk about it now, but with some relish, because it was just fantastic. It just opened my eyes to a whole bunch of things that I'd never even thought about, and in terms of how memorable that is versus the F1, it's equally so, even though F1 was always my ambition. It's those things that you kind of almost took you by surprise, and the unexpected. And I could have never planned that, obviously. But that's just where I ended up, and it was, fantastic.
And when Miami came along on the calendar, you're like, guys, I've got this. The rest of the Aston Martin guys, I've got this. I've seen what goes on. That's just amazing. I think there's some great advice and insight into just taking those opportunities. So thank you very much for that, Andrew. We want to bring it back to F1 in schools. I mean, how did you find out about becoming a judge for F1 in schools?
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, I've been a judge at Formula Student before, because the competition for Formula Student takes place at Silverstone, which is just across the road from where I am now. But I think because of F1 being involved in F1 schools in general, I was kind of aware of the competition. But Aramco and Aston Martin have supported the national finals just recently, and I think there was a little bit of talk within the company here. So I've been involved in undergraduate placement and graduate recruitment here for quite a long time. So I'm kind of involved in, careers fairs and things like that already. So the HR department contacted me and said, would you be interested in kind of getting involved with this? So one of the girls there, she contacted Andrew and put my name forward. And yeah, I did the virtuals, regionals last year, first time. And then I was at national finals in January at the NEC. And then I've just done another regional competition up in the Northeast where I grew up. So I just went back there to do that. And yeah, I'll probably be taking part in national finals again this year. So yeah, it was really word of mouth within the team. But yeah, it's good. It's exactly what I wanted to do. So
well, it's great to have you on board. And as you mentioned, you know, being a judge, I mean, what do you look for when you're judging? Is there anything that you love to see from a team?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a big variety of schools that get involved. There's some that have been involved for many, many years, and obviously you can normally tell those schools they're very, very accomplished. They've got, you know, a lot of the facilities and things like that. And then you get schools that maybe are new to the competition. But I think that the thing that I really look for is kind of originality, because obviously a lot of the teams get to see what other teams have done and sharing ideas and things like that. But when you see something that's kind of an original solution to a problem that school have had, or you know, particularly where they haven't got access to all of the equipment that they could potentially need, they put something together that's, you know, a makeshift idea to try and get over a problem that they've got. I think that's where, you know, it impresses me the most. If I see something I've not seen before, that's, you know, that someone's really kind of had a problem, and you can tell they sat down and thought it through and come up with an idea of their own to fix it, and it has fixed it. You know, I think that's exactly what I want to see, because it's the issues, it's exactly the same sort of issues that we have. You know, we obviously all look at what the other teams do, but those big advances in performance in F1 come from original ideas, and you know, that's what we're trying to do, whether it's even on a day-to-day basis in the factory, but whether it's a design idea on the car or whatever, we're always looking for that step forward that no one else has got. And you know, that's where the real performance comes. To see that in an F1 schools environment and someone's come up with something themselves is yeah, what I'm really looking for. It's great to see when something like that pops up.
It's kind of like the cost cap that you have in F1, and trying to think around. We can't just throw money at the problem. We've got to come up with new ideas. And if you see a team doing that and they go on and they want to get a career in F1, if you were to see F1 in schools on their CV, would that stand out more to you? I mean, I know you're not in HR, but just to know that everyone who does F1 in schools has to tackle these problems, and you want someone like that in your team, surely, who's coming up with solutions to problems.
Completely, 100%. I mean, like you say, if I'm looking at, I mean, I'm recruiting right now, and I get an awful lot of applications. It might be 1,000 applications for one job. It's a lot. So I've got to look through those, and a lot of those people are going to do well in their exams and things like that. But it's very, very difficult, even from exam results, to sort of see what kind of drive and kind of inspiration and inventiveness somebody has. But if you see F1 in schools on that, you know instantly that they've gone through this process. That, you know, the amount of work that the schools do to get involved in F1 in schools, to get to a national, even a regionals final, but a nationals final, a world final, is huge. I mean, that's the thing I think took me by surprise more than anything when I got involved, was just how much detail these teams are going into, and the amount of work that's involved is just staggering. And if I see that on their CV, I know that they're kind of ambitious, they've got that drive, they want to go the extra mile, which is exactly what we want to see here. You know, okay, it's a smaller car, it's not like this one here, budgets are completely different. But that doesn't matter. It is that mindset, it's that drive, it's that ambition and wanting to make the most of your skills. It's all exactly relevant. So yeah, 100%. That's, if I see that on an application now, that's getting in the good pile straight away. And you know, it's worth an awful lot, I have to say. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you mentioned the application. I've already sent mine in. So if you could just no, I'm can't tell now. I'm not sending that application. I wouldn't be right for it. But I do have two questions left, Andrew, and I really do appreciate your time in being involved in the main straight. One is kind of a simple question, really. What tips do you have for teams competing in F1 in schools from what you've seen so far? Kind of an easy question, maybe a tricky one. And then I also want to ask you about a career highlight I don't want to just talk about this year because it's going brilliantly so far, but another career highlight. So one on a personal level and one for everyone listening.
Yeah. So in terms of career highlights for me, then it's a bit difficult. I suppose when I mentioned America, I think that was, again, it's probably the unexpected aspect of that. To go to the Indianapolis Speedway and see the cars going around there was quite something. But I think more recently in F1, it was really the latter days of the Force India project. I don't know if the viewers are necessarily aware, but Force India was quite an underfunded team. It's not quite of the level that Aston Martin are now, but we were probably one of the poorest teams on the grid and really struggled. But in 2017, I think it was, we finished fourth in the championship with some of the things that were going on at the factory. We could hardly have enough paper to put in the printer. We were so hard of cash, and it was really, we weren't getting paid properly, all sorts of things. But we managed to finish fourth in the World Championship. So I think in terms of pride, for myself and my colleagues, a lot of whom are still here, I think that season, we can't beat that. That's quite something. What we managed to do with so little, which again I think is probably going back to what I said. When I see that in schools, is impressive, because I think we couldn't have bought our way out of that, and we managed to impress quite a lot of people with what we did that year. So that was definitely a career highlight for me. In terms of judging for F1 in schools, then I guess everyone has access to the scorecard. I think I've heard a few people mention this already, but we as a judge, we're scoring against a scorecard, and that's to look at the rules, look at the scorecard, and make sure that you've fulfilled every single criteria that's on there as a priority is definitely my top tip. If you want to go forwards to national finals and to worlds, you got to. There's an awful lot of work that can be done, and we can see that it happens. But if it's not on the scorecard, we can't necessarily give direct credit for it. So to read the rules and understand them, and then work with that to show the judges that you've fulfilled all that criteria is definitely my top tip, I think.
Amazing. Thank you so much. While you were talking, Andrew, I was looking at that Force India, the VJM 10 from 20.
That's the one.
And what a livery it is.
It's iconic now, I think. You can't miss it, can you?
Do you know what? Oddly enough, I enjoy that colour quite a lot for T-shirts at the moment, and my general attire and being out and about. But listen, I mean, it's just great to hear that, to get your tip for everyone competing in F1 in schools. And you just put it so succinctly and coherently for people to understand. So I really appreciate you helping, and I look forward to seeing you maybe at another regionals or a national finals, or maybe even worlds if you're in Singapore. Could be. Well, we don't want to give away too many secrets, but Andrew, thank you so much for your time. As you said earlier on, you're very, very busy, and I'm really honoured that you've put the main straight right at the top there, as it should be. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Tom.
Well, how good was that? Having Andrew Brown bringing his wealth of knowledge to the main straight. I'm very grateful for his time, and I tell you what, I may even send him an email to say please come back on the show, because I'm sure there's more knowledge that he can pass on to you guys. With this episode, the one thing that we've got left to do is to find out about the F1 in Schools news. It's actually one of my favorite sections, because I get to chat to PDC, the producer, director and co-host, Max Fernie, who is very tired. I'm going to let everybody know now. He has been traveling up and down the UK for the UK regionals. Max, how have they been? They look fantastic, because I've been watching on the F1 in Schools HQ on Instagram, the socials. The stories are brilliant. You've been reposting all of the teams. They look uber excited to be there. A lot of fun, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to take offense at you calling me looking tired, but I am. There's no avoiding that. We've been traveling a lot for these regionals, but it's been a lot of fun, and it's nice to see us going to the next UK nationals. And again, on the point of sharing things on social media, these teams are competing so hard, and they're putting all the effort into it. So why not put them in the spotlight on our channels and share them on our.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, don't stop, because if I can't be at the UK regionals, then I get to sort of get an idea of what teams are going to be competing. I love it personally, because then when I get to meet these teams, I'm kind of hey, wait a minute, I already know you, but I know I don't know you, but I kind of know you. And that's what I love about F1 in schools. So Max, you're bringing the news. Where should we actually, can I put you on the spot? And I know you love this during a podcast. Hydron, okay? They're our champions, our winners of the Worlds last year at Silverstone, all the way from Australia. I was just wondering, because I heard a rumor that they might be on the main straight soon. Can you confirm or deny this? Is it going to happen, Max? Please. Because if they've got so much knowledge, they won a World Finals, surely we want to get them on, right?
Wow, I don't know how you've got this rumor to be close to being accurate, but we are in communication. I have been sort of emailing back and forth. But they were supposed to be on a lot more recently, but factors came into play due to what we want for content. So instead, they could be on in the future.
So that's a yes. Brilliant, Max. You've said everything I need to know. This is an episode I cannot wait for, so that is something to look forward to. But what's happening in the news, Max?
In the news, well, while we're on the topic of Hydron, they will be at the Australian Grand Prix, which is amazing. I am so jealous. But yeah, they are off to the Grand Prix, so I hope they have the best time. At the time of recording this, it's way before the Grand Prix. It's not until next weekend. This is 2 weeks before. So fingers crossed they have the best time. I mean, I don't see how you couldn't have the best time at the Grand Prix.
Hey, they deserve it. They won a world final, so they deserve this prize. So yeah, they should enjoy it. And when we get to chat to them, maybe or maybe not, apparently according to you, when we'll find out how they got on. Any other news from Australia, from down under?
Next week, as of when we're recording this right now, they will be having their national finals. That's all to look forward to. Andrew Denford, the founder and chairman of F1 in Schools, will be flying out to watch it. So he'll be seeing who takes home some trophies.
Yeah. I'm hoping he brings back some Tim Tams. I'll message him because I love Tim Tams, incredible biscuits. Because you know what? When there's a world final, everyone brings something from their country, which I absolutely love. So, hopefully for the world finals in Singapore, there'll be some, people that bring more produce but basically I like eating. So,
Well, we have three new countries coming to the world finals. Two of them have been before, but not as of recent. So that new one is Switzerland. So whatever food you want from now, if it's just a gift.
Cuckoo clock. Thank you. Just off the top of my head, Cuckoo clock. They've got incredible chocolate as well. What other countries are coming then?
Well, we have Japan.
Brilliant. I love a samurai sword. That would be great. I can go on the wall. And they've also got amazing sort of like sweet treats as well. Like, was it mushi? Like, it's like soya bean little thing. And, and I can say all of the Japanese words I know, like arigato. Arigato? I'll work on it.
Yeah, work on it. I mean, I don't think they're going to get a samurai sword past customs in Singapore.
That is a very good point. But it'd be great to have them.
Great to have one.
It'd be great to have them on board. And what's the other country that's going to be competing?
We have
first time?
The Italians will be returning to the World Finals.
Well, but you were looking at me as if I was going to say something about the obvious food, but oh my word, I love pasta and pizza. If you could just bring some of that. But obviously, focus on the job in hand. Sorry, I always take it off at a tangent, don't I, Max? But that's brilliant. So coming back, so there's 3 countries, maybe that would be their first time competing or they will be returning. Great to have them on board. What else is going on, Max?
Our Brazilian teams will be competing there's 2 events that Brazil have for their nationals. So they've just had the nationals, which has seen Mac 1 Planalto. They won the SESI tournament in Brazil and they got first place and they're off to World Finals in Singapore. But as of right now, they are having their second nationals, and we will be finding out very soon who will be their other team that go to the World Finals as well.
Yeah, I tell you what, the Brazilian teams bring a lot of passion. Spark, favourites of mine, competed last year in the Worlds. Great to have them on board. Arigato is the thank you in Japanese. Obrigado is a thank you in Portuguese. So I think I've just nailed it there for a little bit of that.
I believe you have a shirt from one of the Brazilian teams from World Finals, do you not? I believe you did a little shirt trading.
You've got to do a shirt swap, which is fantastic. Spark were brilliant because they bring it such enthusiasm. I know all the teams do, but the Brazilians bring that kind of flair, which I'm looking forward to. So best of luck. Well, obviously it's past tense now, but best of luck to all of the teams that have qualified there to be heading to Worlds. And is there anything else going on in the world of Max right now?
In the world of Max, well, F1 in Schools Spain is now officially set up. They are established fully, so hopefully we start seeing some more Spanish teams at the Worlds in the future, and hopefully they set up some really good events that set some amazing teams to compete.
Yeah, look forward to that. Max, where are you heading to next as we wrap up this show, episode 6?
I have a few weeks off where I think it's about 2 weeks where I have a bit of a break from UK regionals, and then it will be off to Birmingham for the West Midlands for Aston University.
All right. Well, if you are heading to that, get ready to meet PDC in person. Let him know how you're enjoying the podcast. And if you are enjoying this show, then make sure you like, subscribe, and also send us a message. We love to hear from you. And of course, all of the socials at F1 in Schools HQ. Max, an absolute pleasure. And thank you to Andrew Brown as well. We'll catch you next time on The Main Straight, the official F1 in Schools podcast.